Sorry, this table's for family only. My sister sneered at her engagement party, gesturing toward a folding chair beside the trash cans. Everyone laughed as I sat by myself. Then the bill showed up. $4,800. The waiter turned to me. I simply smiled and said, "Not my table." I still remember the sting, the raw injustice of that night. It wasn't just about a chair by a trash can, it was the moment I realized my own family had chosen to humiliate me, to throw me away like yesterday's garbage, all for a cheap laugh and a bill they expected me to pay. My name is Steven. I'm 32, and for as long as I can remember, I've been the one who fixes things. I pour concrete for a living, frame houses when the crew is short, and I keep a tape measure in my pocket because it just feels wrong not to. My hands are rough, my back complains, but there's a quiet pride in what I do. In my family, I was always the guy who showed up with a toolbox when a cabinet broke. The one who did the heavy lifting so no one else had to. Not because I'm some saint, but honestly. It was always easier than arguing. Then there's my younger sister, Kelsey. She's 29, all marketing smiles and expensive nails. Her fiancé, Ethan, wears loafers without socks and talks about curating experiences. My parents adored them. When I talked about pouring footings before the frost line, people just nodded like I was speaking a foreign language. The engagement party was at this fancy place, white brick walls, industrial lights, a bar that looked straight out of a magazine. I rolled straight from a job site, scrubbing my hands with orange pumice soap in the truck, but the lines of the day were still under my nails. I brought Kelsey the gift she wanted, cash, tucked inside a card with a gold bow. Cash is more flexible, she told the family chat. I remembered that word. Flexible. When I walked in, I saw the main table first. One long rectangle, elegant, with candles and glass cups. Everyone I knew was there, Mom, Dad, Aunt Linda, Ethan's parents, Kelsey's Instagram friends. I lifted a hand. Kelsey saw me, and her smile shifted. Just a couple of degrees. She stood, smoothed her dress, and met me halfway, giving me a hug that didn't quite touch. "Hey, Steven," she said, inches of expensive perfume between us. "Hey," I replied, holding up the card. "Congrats." She took it with 2 fingers, like it might smudge her nails, then glanced past my shoulder. I looked at the table. No empty seat. Just place cards with scripted names. A tiny rectangle that just said, family. Where should I sit? I asked, trying to keep my voice light. Kelsey lifted her chin. "Sorry," she chirped, a smile flashing teeth. "This table's for family only." She pointed toward the back of the room. "We set up a spot for you." My eyes followed her finger. Past the bar, past the bathroom sign. Near the service door. There, by a gray trash can with a swinging lid, was a fold-out chair. On it, a napkin and a fork wrapped in paper. No plate. Someone at the long table laughed. Then another. It rolled like a low wave down the linen runner. I waited, just for a beat. Maybe it was a joke. Maybe a, just kidding. But then Ethan leaned back in his chair and called out, "We figured you'd want somewhere quiet, man. You know, since you get off work late." My mom didn't look at me. She just poured herself water and said to no one in particular, "He's fine." My face burned. Hot. But my hands stayed still. I stared at the trash can, at the silver handle with its smudges. The service door opened, and a busser wheeled out a bin of plates. He looked at me, then at the chair, then back at me. He whispered, "You good?" like he'd walked into a crime scene. "I'm good," I said. I picked up the fold-out chair. The metal legs scraped the concrete floor. The sound made a few heads turn, then turn quickly away. At the main table, someone started a toast. I heard my name once, fleetingly, in a list of thank yous, and Steven, who's always so reliable. Then the chatter swallowed it. From my corner, I could see Kelsey's profile, the perfect swing of her hair, the way she pressed her napkin to her lips after she laughed. My chest felt tight, small. I took a breath like I do when I'm under a house, crawling, trying not to think about the weight over me. A server brought me a plate, balanced on his arm like a tray. "Sorry about the seating," he murmured. "They told us to put you here." "It's fine," I said again. The fork was light. The chair wobbled. Kelsey lifted her glass. "To family," she said, loud and bright. Everyone echoed it. I swallowed water that tasted like metal. Halfway through the main course, Dad came by to pat my shoulder. "Don't sulk," he said. "It's Kelsey's night." "I'm not sulking," I replied. "I'm sitting." He gave me a look like I was being difficult, then drifted back. The cake came. Slices were cut at the head table first, passed like treasure down the line. When the tray finally swung my way, Ethan's mother leaned in and whispered something to the server. My plate went past me. Then. Passed again. The tray was empty when it reached my side. The busser caught my eye and winced. "I'll check the kitchen." "Don't worry," I said, and folded my napkin like a blueprint. I watched candles blink in the air conditioning. Later, maybe an hour, maybe more, the room went quiet. A bill presenter appeared at the head of the table. The manager whispered to Ethan. Ethan smiled, tapped a knife to his glass. "Okay, team," he said, like he was talking business. "We've arranged the check a special way." He made eye contact with me from across the room. The waiter followed his gaze. The busser returned, setting a small slice of cake on my wobbly chair's corner. "I'm sorry, man," he breathed. I looked up. The waiter was looking back, leather bill folder in his hand. Everyone else was looking, too. I felt the air thin, the same way it does when you crawl into a tight space and realize you might not fit. My jaw unclenched. I smiled. "Not my table," I said. The waiter froze. The laughter didn't come this time. Just eyes. And the low hum of a cooler motor behind the swinging door. You know, I wasn't always sitting by trash cans. It just sort of happened over time. Our house when we were kids was small, a crooked 1960s ranch with a roof Dad always promised to replace. When it rained hard, water tapped into buckets in the hallway. "Good thing we have a son," Dad would say, handing me a ladder. Kelsey got piano lessons. I got shingles under my fingernails. By 16, I was on a framing crew summers and weekends. By 18, I had a reputation for showing up early, hauling more than my weight, not complaining about the heat. I didn't do college. I didn't ask my parents for money. I fixed the porch, then the fence, then the plumbing when the kitchen sink coughed brown water. Mom would post a photo, so blessed to have a handy son. When Kelsey moved to the city for her marketing job, I loaded her U-Haul, drove it, carried her furniture up 3 flights, hung her shelves, and paid the security deposit while she waited for a direct deposit to hit. "I'll pay you back the second I can," she'd said, hugging me hard enough to smell her hairspray. I told her not to worry. 6 months later, when I asked about it, she blinked like she'd never heard those words. "Steven, don't be weird about money. It's family." That became a chorus. "Don't be weird about money. It's family." It came from Mom when she asked me to co-sign her new SUV because her credit score wasn't reflecting her true reliability. It came from Dad when he used my Home Depot card just until payday. It came from Kelsey most of all. Brunches charged to my card. Venmo requests that never reversed. Little totals that stopped feeling little when I laid them out like studs on a sawhorse. I kept a spreadsheet. For sanity. Dates, amounts, reasons. $350 for Kelsey's first month of city parking. $780 for her emergency dental work. $1,900 for Ethan's bridge loan when his crypto timed the bottom wrong. $2,500 for mom's car down payment. $160 here, $120 there. I'd look at the columns at night, the way you look at a crooked wall and know exactly where it's out of plumb. Every time I tried to talk about it, I became the problem. You're obsessed with keeping score, Mom said once, stirring sugar into tea. Your sister needs support while she builds her brand. Kelsey brings opportunities to this family, Dad added. You bring muscle. Both matter. I started saying less. It was easier to carry a beam than argue about one. The little betrayals got weirder. I found out Kelsey had listed my address on a store credit application because it looked more stable. I discovered my Netflix profile replaced with guests and a kid's profile named after Ethan's dog. When I reset passwords, Mom called to say I was punishing Kelsey for succeeding. Then came the invite to the engagement party. The group chat blew up with color palettes and signature cocktails. Kelsey sent a registry link with sections labeled must, want, and if you love us. Every item had a note, cash preferred. I texted, what do you actually need? She replied, a generous brother. Smiley face. The week before the party, Kelsey called me on my lunch break. I was sitting on the back bumper of my work truck, eating a ham sandwich. We were looking over the numbers, she said, her voice bright. And since you're doing great financially, I mean, blue collar, but still, we figured you could take care of the venue minimum. It's only fair. Family shows up. I chewed. Swallowed. Fought the heat crawling up my neck. How much is the minimum? Don't be weird. Ethan's handling it. Then why are you calling me? She sighed. Because we shouldn't have to explain. You know what? Forget it. Just bring the envelope we talked about. Don't be cheap. The call ended. I stared at the parking lot gravel and thought about anchors. The metal kind we epoxy into concrete so beams don't shift when the wind tests them. My boundaries weren't anchors. They were painter's tape. 2 days later, Dad showed up at my duplex with beer and a speech. He sat at my small table, took a long pull, and said, your sister is marrying up. Don't mess this up with your pride. You know how you can be. How can I be? I asked. Stubborn. Counting pennies. Making everything transactional. Keeping track of money isn't making it transactional, I said. It is a transaction. He waved a hand. This is bigger than that. It's family positioning. You'll get yours when. It's your turn. I didn't say my turn never comes. I just nodded and put the beer in the fridge. The morning of the party, Kelsey texted a seating chart. My name wasn't on it. I asked, where am I? She replied with a heart and a thumbs up. No seat number. I went anyway. I always go. That's the trap. You go because not going is worse. You go because the story they'll tell if you don't is nastier than the truth if you do. At the restaurant, the hostess looked at her tablet and said, oh, you're Steven. Then she bit her lip like she'd been told a joke and wasn't allowed to laugh. And then there was the chair, the trash can, the laugh that ran like a current, the slice of cake balanced on a wobble, the bill folder in the waiter's hand, the heat in my face, the way my mouth shaped, not my table. You ever feel a whole life click into place around a single sentence? That happened. Here's the part no one saw coming. The room didn't know what to do after I said it. The waiter froze. Ethan's smile wavered. Mom blinked twice. Then Kelsey cleared her throat. Steven, don't be dramatic, she said, lightly, like she'd practiced it. We just assumed, you'd be generous. The waiter still held the folder, looking truly stuck. I stood up, not fast, and the chair scraped again. Help whoever ordered that, I said, nodding at the folder. I'm not on that table's check. I'm on this one. I patted the scarred concrete next to my foldout. People shifted in their seats, whispered. Ethan laughed again, higher this time. Dude, relax. It's all in fun. I thought about the spreadsheet. I thought about the cosine. The day I troweled a slab in August heat while Kelsey texted me from a rooftop pool. I thought about anchors. My phone buzzed in my pocket. A text from Mom, "Don't embarrass your sister." I put the phone face down on the table and slid my slice of cake into a napkin. The busser's eyes were soft. "You okay?" he asked again. "Better than I was an hour ago," I said. The manager came over finally, a careful smile on, like approaching a dog that might bite. "Is there a problem?" "No problem," I said. "Just not my table." I didn't raise my voice. I didn't make a scene. I took a breath and felt something settle inside me like concrete curing. On my way out, I left the card in the busser's hand. "Give this to Kelsey," I said. "Or don't. Up to you." Outside, the air was cooler. I stood on the sidewalk watching cars slide past. My hands were steady. That felt new. Then my phone lit up. Family group chat. The messages stacked fast. "Mom, Steven, where did you go?" "Dad, you owe your sister an apology." "Kelsey, grow up." "Ethan, bro, you made the staff uncomfortable." "Not a good look." "Aunt Linda, honey, money comes back. Family doesn't." I typed, deleted, typed, deleted. Then I wrote 2 words, "I'm done." I put my phone in my pocket and walked to my truck. Somewhere behind me, a waiter explained a bill to a table with a pretty runner and little glass candles. The next morning, my front door shook like someone was trying to free it from its hinges. I opened it to find Mom and Dad on my stoop, both in yesterday's clothes. Mom had puffy eyes. Dad had that look he gets when he's already decided he's right. "We need to talk," Mom said, pushing past me. "Coffee?" I asked, out of habit, then hated myself for asking. They sat. Mom didn't. She paced my small kitchen like she was burning a trench. "You humiliated your sister," she said, her voice sharp, in front of her future in-laws. Dad folded his arms. "That bill was always going to you. Ethan said it that way because you're the stable one." I leaned on the counter. "You seated me by a trash can." Mom waved a hand. "The restaurant messed up." "Your daughter pointed me there," I said, then laughed. She opened her mouth, closed it, then jabbed a finger at me. "You were so sensitive." "It was a joke." "You made it ugly." I put my phone on the table, opened the spreadsheet, and turned the screen toward them. Rows and rows. Dates, totals, notes. "What is this?" Dad asked. "A list," I said. "Of every time I paid. Every time you said it was family. Every time it wasn't a loan, it was an obligation." Mom peered at the numbers. "You've been keeping track." She said it like I had kept jars of teeth. "Yes," I said, because someone had to. Dad's jaw tightened. "You think you're owed for helping your family?" "I think I'm done being your ATM," I said, steady. "I think boundaries are not punishments." Mom crossed her arms over her chest. "So what? You're cutting us off." "I'm cutting off access," I said, "to my cards, my accounts, my time when it's not asked for with respect." Dad snorted. "Respect?" You stormed out. "I left," I said quietly, after being told I wasn't family. Silence. The fridge hummed. Mom's voice softened, like she'd switched scripts. "Sweetheart, we didn't mean it that way. Your sister is stressed. Big day emotions. She needs you." "No," I said. One word. It felt like taking the weight off a jack. Her eyes widened. What did you say? No, I repeated. Not this time. Not anymore. The answer is no. Dad stood, hands on the table like he was about to lift it. You're making a mistake. Family is everything. Family is not everything, I said. Family is people who act like family. Mom's mouth trembled. We raised you. And I appreciate that, I said. I also poured your patio, rebuilt your deck, fixed your pipes, and co-signed a car I don't drive. I don't need a medal. I need a seat at the table that isn't next to a trash can. Dad's face flushed. You're ungrateful. I met his eyes. I'm done. He pointed at the spreadsheet. Delete it. No. He took a breath like a bull, then stopped. Maybe he saw something in my face he hadn't seen before. Maybe he remembered the weight I carry all day and realized I could carry a fight, too. Mom switched tactics again. Tears. If you don't help with the bill, your sister can't cover the difference. The venue charged a service fee. They'll put it on her credit. She'll be ruined. I wanted to laugh. Not because dead is funny. But because of the sheer theater of it all. How much? I asked. She brightened, quick. Only $4,800. I nodded. Then she and Ethan can pay it. It's their party. Mom stared. You always were crueler than you look. Dad grabbed the doorknob. We'll remember this. I'm counting on it, I said. They left. The door closed. I stood in the quiet and felt my hands shake for the first time. Not fear. Adrenaline. And the absence of something I'd carried for years. My phone started again. Kelsey, then Kelsey again, then Ethan, then Aunt Linda. I let them all go to voicemail. Then I sent one text to the group, if you need a contractor, get a quote. If you need money, go to a bank. If you need me, try respect. That afternoon, I went to the job site and tied rebar with a speed I hadn't felt since I was 19. Every twist was a sentence I hadn't said for a decade, asterisk no, not this time. I won't. Not my table, asterisk that night, someone slid an envelope under my door. I opened it with a utility knife. Inside, a printout of a bill, a photo from the party, and a note in Kelsey's handwriting, you did this. Fix it. I took a picture of the note, filed it in a folder, and put the original in the junk drawer with rubber bands and old screws. The photo showed me in the background by the trash can, eating cake. I printed that one and taped it to my fridge. The first day after a boundary is quiet. People wait to see if you meant it. The second day gets loud. I woke up to 26 missed calls and a new group chat titled, Family Intervention. The first message was from Aunt Linda, we need to reset expectations. The second was from Mom, your sister's credit card was declined at the dress fitting because of the venue hold. She's hysterical. Fix this. I made coffee and read every message like it was a work order. Then I put my phone face down and ate eggs. At 9:07 a.m. Kelsey showed up at my place with Ethan, both in sunglasses. She didn't knock. She rattled the handle until I opened. You're unbelievable, she said, sweeping in. Do you know what you've done? Set a boundary, I said, stepping aside so they couldn't push past. Ethan tried to smile. Bro, no hard feelings about the seating. That was Kelsey's idea. We were playing. Kelsey shot him a look. Ethan. Then back to me. The venue charged my card. It overdraft. I have a blocked account now. Do you understand overdrafts? I do, I said. Banks charge fees when you spend money you don't have. Her jaw worked. You've always been jealous. Of what? I asked. Of my life, she said, gesturing at her outfit, her ring. Of people liking me. Of not having to live covered in dust. I looked at my hands, the small cuts, the strength. I like my life, I said. Ethan exhaled. We just need you to front the difference until the wedding gifts clear. There are no wedding gifts, I said. This was your engagement party. He blinked. Semantics. Kelsey leaned in, voice low. Mom and Dad said, you do the right thing. Don't make them choose. They already chose, I said. They sat at your table while I ate by the trash. She threw up her hands. God, you're dramatic. Fine. She dug into her purse and slapped my card on the counter. My card? The one I'd cancelled 3 months ago. Happy? We found this in Mom's junk drawer. Was that part of your spreadsheet, too? I picked up the card, turned it in my fingers like a fossil. Leave, I said. She scoffed. You can't kick me out of my brother's house. I can't, I said, and opened the door. Ethan tried for a final move. We'll tell everyone you refuse to help your own sister with a basic family expense. You already did, I said. It didn't work. They left. The hallway smelled like her perfume for an hour after. At noon, my boss pulled me aside. You okay? He asked. Your mom called the office. She did what? Said there was a family emergency and you'd need an advance. He looked at me over his glasses. I told her we don't do that for anyone. You want to take the afternoon? No, I said. I want to pour. We poured a walkway behind a small brick house for a retired teacher. She brought us lemonade and told us her late husband used to lay tile. I liked the way she said, used to, without apology. When we finished, I troweled the edges until they were clean enough to see a reflection. On the drive home, my phone buzzed again. Cousin Mark. Hey man, he said when I answered, I heard there's drama. Just so you know, people are saying you tried to stiff the staff. I laughed, one short sound. The staff is the only reason I didn't walk out sooner. They were kind. Mark hesitated. I believe you. For what it's worth. It's worth something, I said. That night, I changed passwords I should have changed months ago. I removed devices from accounts. I shut down an old shared phone plan I'd kept because Mom didn't like new carriers. I got 3 angry texts inside 10 minutes. What did you do to my Spotify, Steven? My phone stopped working. Wow. Petty. I put my phone on Do Not Disturb and slept like I had after my first full week on the framing crew, heavy and unbothered. By day 3, the storm turned. The group chat got quieter, then split into side messages I wasn't in. Aunt Linda texted, I don't agree with how they treated you. A cousin DM'd me a photo from the party I hadn't seen, Kelsey, smirking, finger pointed at me in the background by the trash can. He added, I left early. Felt gross. I started hearing through sideways channels that the bill had been divided the old-fashioned way. In the end, Ethan's dad covered half. With a tight face. Kelsey's bridesmaids split a chunk, and my parents maxed a card they were hoping to keep clean for a trip. People were mad. Not at me. At the awkward truth, sitting in the middle of their pretty runner. Mom called again and left a long voicemail that began with, I hope you're happy, and ended with, when you need us, don't expect us to show up. I saved it with the others in a folder named, Policy. I went to work. I came home. I did not answer the door when someone pounded late and shouted my name. I bought a new deadbolt, installed it, and oiled the hinges on my own time. The quiet after that was different. It wasn't punishment. It was space. In the space, other things grew. I said yes to a Saturday side job for a woman who needed a wall opened between her kitchen and dining room. She told me her contractor ran off mid-project. I finished the framing in a day, called an electrician I trust, and left the place broom clean. She paid me, then pressed a tip into my hand like I'd returned something she thought was gone. "You were respectful," she said, like it surprised her. I shrugged and said, "It's not hard." I started lifting with a friend in the mornings again, pulled my old bike out of the shed, fixed a squeak that had been bothering me for 2 years in a cabinet door because it bothered me and no one else. A week later, Kelsey emailed me a spreadsheet of her own. The subject line said, "Here." It was a list of what our family has done for you. There was unpaid rent from when I lived at home at 19, I paid it, we both knew it. 3 dinners from 2015. A list of Christmas gifts. And a note that said, "Mom carried you for 9 months." I replied with one sentence, "Thanks for the list. No reimbursements approved." She didn't write back. She posted on Instagram instead, a story with the words, "Blood isn't everything," over a boomerang of champagne. I laughed out loud. Then I closed the app and didn't open it again for a week. Real life moved. I took a small vacation day and drove to the lake with a thermos of coffee. I watched a guy teach his kid how to skip stones. I thought about my future the way you think about a deck you might add. Where the sun falls, how the weight will sit, what anchors you need so it doesn't tilt under guests. On Sunday, I got a text from Dad. "No, hello, just, we're selling the house. We'll need your help moving." I typed, "Hire movers." He replied, "We can't afford that." I asked, "How much was the engagement party?" He didn't answer. Monday, my foreman asked if I wanted to take on a crew lead spot that was opening up. "You've got the calm people listen to," he said. "And the spine." I almost said I wasn't ready. Then I thought about a chair by a trash can and said, "I am." 2 weeks after the party, I went over to Mom and Dad's because Mom texted about a leak. Not as a son. As a contractor. I brought an invoice pad. Mom answered with red eyes, like she'd rehearsed them. "So, you'll help?" she said, relieved. "I'll take a look," I said. "My rate is on the invoice." She froze. "You're charging your mother." "I'm charging a client," I said. "Family rates are for family." She swallowed hard and stepped aside. The leak was a bad wax ring on the upstairs toilet. I replaced it in 40 minutes. When I finished, I handed her the invoice. She signed. Her hand shook, but she signed. On my way out, Dad leaned in the doorway, voice low. "You think you're better than us now?" "No," I said. "Just not worse." I drove home with a copy of the invoice on the passenger seat. It felt like a receipt for air. A month later, silence. I skipped the wedding. Not my table. I set anchors for my pergola, blocked the venue's call, and wrote the last line in my spreadsheet, boundary, $0 paid.